Imagine for a moment a substance so powerful it could let you speak with the gods, heal the sick, and see into the future. Now imagine this substance wasn't cooked up in a high-tech lab, but was a simple mushroom, revered for thousands of years as the literal flesh of the gods. This isn't science fiction. This was the reality for the great civilizations of the ancient Americas. Welcome to 10-Minute History. I'm your host, Jake Sullivan, and today we're peeling back the veil of history to explore the profound and foundational role of psychedelic plants in pre-Columbian rituals. Before the pyramids of Egypt were even built, people in the Americas were already engaging in a deep spiritual relationship with psychoactive plants. The oldest direct evidence we have comes from the Shumla caves in Texas, where archaeologists found dried peyote buttons that are an incredible 5,700 years old. This wasn't a fringe activity. For cultures like the Olmec, the Maya, and the Aztecs, these sacred plants were the very bedrock of their religion, medicine, and social order. To understand why, we have to understand their view of the cosmos. They saw the universe as a three-tiered structure, a celestial realm of the gods above, our own terrestrial world in the middle, and a mysterious underworld of death and regeneration below. These realms weren't separate. They were constantly interacting, and keeping them in balance was the most important job in the world. That job fell to ritual specialists, the shamans and priests. Their role was to travel, in spirit, to these other realms, to communicate with deities, consult with ancestors, and heal the community. But how do you travel to the land of the gods while still living? While fasting, dancing, and drumming could help, the most powerful and direct method was by ingesting sacred plants. These entheogens, a word meaning generating the divine within, were the shaman's spiritual vehicle, the key that unlocked the doors of perception and allowed them to navigate the spirit world. So let's explore this sacred pharmacy, this pharmacopoeia of the gods. Perhaps the most famous of these is the psilocybin mushroom. The Aztecs called it Teonanacatl, which, as I said, translates to flesh of the gods. Its use was ancient and widespread across Mesoamerica. Some of the most compelling proof comes in the form of enigmatic mushroom stones found in Guatemala and Mexico, dating back as far as 1000 BCE. These are masterfully carved stone sculptures of mushrooms, often with a human or animal figure as the base, clearly showing a deep, ritualistic connection. Later, in the great city of Teotihuacan, a vibrant mural painted around the year 500 CE depicts a paradise of the rain god, Tlaloc. And hidden among the joyful figures are clear images of psilocybin mushrooms, linking them to fertility and spiritual bliss. But our most detailed accounts come from the Aztecs, recorded by the very Spanish friars who sought to destroy the practice. A Franciscan friar named Bernardino de Sahagún spent 50 years documenting Aztec life in his incredible work, the Florentine Codex. He wrote, and I quote, "The first to be eaten at the gathering were the little black mushrooms. They ate them with honey. When they began to feel the effects, they began to dance. Some sang, others wept. Some saw themselves dying in a vision. Some saw themselves being eaten by a wild beast. This wasn't a party. It was a deeply serious affair." The mushrooms were used at the coronation of emperors, like Moctezuma II in 1502. Priests used them for divination, to find the cause of an illness or predict the future. And warriors would take them to receive visions of victory before battle. Interestingly, the Aztecs often mixed the mushrooms with honey to hide the bitter taste, and also with cacao or chocolate. Cacao was itself a sacred substance, and they may have known intuitively that combining these two powerful plants created an even more profound spiritual experience. While mushrooms reigned in the jungles and highlands, a different plant was the divine messenger of the desert, the peyote cactus. This small, spineless cactus contains the powerful psychedelic, mescaline. As we mentioned, its use goes back at least 5,700 years. To truly understand its importance, we can look to the Huichol people of Mexico's Sierra Madre Mountains. They have maintained their ancient traditions into the modern day. For the Huichol, peyote is not a plant. It is a deity, a sacred ancestor. Every year, a group led by a shaman, called a Maraacame, travels over 300 miles on foot to a sacred desert named Wirikuta. This journey is a reenactment of the original pilgrimage of their gods. When they arrive, they hunt the peyote cactus as if it were a sacred deer, another one of their central deities. By consuming the peyote in all-night ceremonies, they believe they can speak with the gods, ensure a good harvest, and maintain the balance of the entire cosmos. The stunningly intricate yarn paintings and beadwork the Huichol are famous for are not just art. They are literal maps of the visions they receive during these sacred rituals. Now let's travel south to the Amazon and the Andes, home to an incredible feat of botanical chemistry, ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is a brew made from two different plants, and how ancient peoples figured this out is a true mystery. One plant, the chacruna shrub, contains the powerful psychedelic DMT, but DMT isn't active if you just eat it. An enzyme in our stomach breaks it down. However, the second ingredient, the ayahuasca vine itself, contains a compound that temporarily switches off that exact enzyme. By boiling the two plants together, Amazonian shamans created a potent, vision-inducing brew that lasts for hours. When asked how they discovered this precise combination out of over 80,000 plant species in the Amazon, indigenous people often say the plants told them directly. Ayahuasca is considered a master healer. Shamans use it to diagnose the spiritual source of an illness, which they visualize and then remove. Further up in the Andes, other cultures used psychoactive snuffs made from the ground seeds of the Anadenanthera tree. These powders, known as yopo or vilca, contain a cocktail of tryptamines including DMT and were forcefully blown into the user's nostrils through tubes. The effect was rapid, overwhelming, and central to their rituals. Just a few years ago, in 2019, a groundbreaking discovery in Bolivia gave us a perfect snapshot of this. Archaeologists found a 1,000-year-old shaman's pouch made from the snouts of 3 foxes. Inside was a complete toolkit, a snuffing tablet, a beautifully carved tube, and more. When scientists analyzed the residue inside the pouch, they were stunned. They found traces of cocaine, harmine, DMT, and bufotenin. This shaman wasn't just using one plant. He was a master psychopharmacologist, an expert combining at least 3 different psychoactive plants, likely to fine-tune the visionary experience for specific purposes. This was the pre-Columbian equivalent of a master chemist's laboratory. This entire spiritual world, built over millennia, came to a sudden and violent turning point with the arrival of Europeans in 1492. The Spanish conquistadors and the Catholic friars who followed saw the indigenous religions as nothing less than devil worship. The complex gods of the Aztecs and Maya were seen as demonic masks for Satan, and the use of sacred plants was especially horrifying to them. The idea that a mushroom could be the flesh of a god was seen as a blasphemous mockery of the Christian Eucharist. A friar named Millennia wrote that the mushrooms caused people to see 1,000 visions, especially of snakes, and that the name Teonanacatl meant flesh of God, or of the devil that they worship. Driven by a religious fervor, the Spanish launched a campaign to wipe these traditions from the face of the earth. They smashed idols and burned thousands of irreplaceable painted books, called codices, which they believed were works of the devil. The Holy Office of the Inquisition, established in Mexico in 1571, actively prosecuted anyone caught using these plants. A formal edict in 1620 banned the use of peyote, calling it an act of superstition against the Catholic faith. But despite this brutal suppression, the traditions did not die, they survived. In remote, mountainous regions far from Spanish eyes, communities continued their practices in secret. In other areas, they survived through syncretism, cleverly blending their traditional beliefs with Catholicism. A mushroom ceremony might begin with a prayer to Jesus, where the peyote cactus might be called the Rose of St. Mary. This acted as a cultural shield, preserving the ancient core of the practice under a thin Christian veneer. This incredible resilience is why these traditions, like the Huichol peyote hunt, still exist today. The legacy of these ancient practices is very much alive in the 21st century, in what many are calling the psychedelic renaissance. Major institutions like Johns Hopkins University and Imperial College London are now conducting groundbreaking research on psilocybin, the active compound in those sacred mushrooms. They're finding it has remarkable potential for treating severe depression, anxiety, and addiction. In a way, modern neuroscience is using fMRI scanners to validate what indigenous shamans have known for thousands of years. These substances, when used with intention and respect, can be powerful tools for healing the mind. Meanwhile, indigenous groups continue to fight for their religious freedom. In the United States, the Native American Church, which has over 250,000 members, won a long legal battle in 1994, securing their right to use peyote as a religious sacrament. But this modern fascination also brings serious ethical challenges. The global demand for plants like peyote and ayahuasca is threatening their very existence. Peyote, which can take 15 years to mature, is now endangered in parts of its native habitat, creating a crisis for the very cultures that have revered it for millennia. So what does this all mean? The story of psychedelics in the ancient Americas shows us that for most of human history, these substances were not seen as dangerous drugs for recreation. They were a sophisticated spiritual technology, woven into the very fabric of some of the world's most impressive civilizations. They were the keys to the cosmos, the tools used to maintain balance, heal the sick, and connect with the divine. The traditions were violently suppressed, but they endured, a testament to the resilience of indigenous cultures and the profound power of the experience itself. Today, this ancient legacy challenges us to look beyond simple categories and to appreciate these plants for what they have always been: powerful, world-shaping forces that connect us to the deepest mysteries of our own minds. So what are your thoughts on this? Let us know down in the comments. If you found this interesting or learned something new, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to 10-Minute History for more deep dives. Thanks for listening.